So we have said, even though the Jets do not really have what I would want if I was Deshaun Watson. You don't know if Saleh can coach. They don't have any weapons. They have organizational chaos. They make way too much sense. They've got everything you need, the picks, the opening, the assets at quarterback to make this work. And I'll show you an example. So Greg Olson agreed. You agree. Joy, we all agree. San Francisco is the best place to go. So we're going to play quarterback dominoes. Here's how it could work if Deshaun had a choice. So Deshaun, they would be Super Bowl co-favorites with Kansas City if he went to San Francisco.
Yeah.
That would be if I was his agent, if I was Deshaun. That's the easy one. There's no buts. Everything works. San Francisco does have a player or two they could trade. They have a surplus of talent, and they have the 12th pick they'd give to Houston. Houston would also get many of their other picks, so they could move that 12th pick up. But in this instance, they go with Deshaun Watson. Houston makes a deal. So what does that mean? Jimmy Garoppolo's on the market. Garoppolo then goes to a place he's been. They won with him. They know him. San Francisco's unhappy with him. That's why they make the deal for Deshaun Watson. And so Garoppolo goes to the Patriots, solving their quarterback dilemma. So what happens after that? So then, number 3, the Colts are a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl-worthy team. They may have misgivings about Matthew Stafford's inability to win. But Stafford, who's got the okay to look for work, would choose the Colts because he's smart enough to see, I can win a bunch of games here, and they have a great O-line and a great GM and a great coach. So Stafford would agree with it. The Colts are not going to go young. They just drafted a rookie quarterback last year, and this team's ready to win now. Why roll the dice on a rookie quarterback? They already have one in-house, Jacob Eason. So they're going to go for the best available quarterback on the market. Now that Deshaun's off, Garoppolo's off, they go Stafford. What happens after that? Well, the Jets, they didn't get Deshaun Watson. They have the number 2 pick. They take Zach Wilson. It's a fresh start. Robert Saleh. Zach Wilson is very highly graded. I think higher than Darnold out of college. So what does that do to Darnold? Washington acquires Sam Darnold. Nothing against Alex Smith. Can't trust him physically. This team, I believe, is ready to win now in that division with that defense and that coach. I think they go out and get Sam Darnold, and I think it's a great fit for Sam Darnold. Then, who's next? The Lions have a very good pick. They take Justin Fields, the best available young guy in their eyes, Midwest kid, or, he played for Ohio State, very popular choice. Dan Campbell, new coach, wants a fresh start. Then it's Carolina next. They go get Trey Lance. He's probably not quite ready to play like Justin Fields. Well, that's perfect because they have Teddy Bridgewater, who, like Alex Smith, cerebral, steady, reliable, teaches him the tricks for a year, then takes over, and then Teddy backs him up. Then, finally, the Texans. Oh, they're screwed. Like their coaching search, they don't have anything. So the point being is, that's why the Jets offer nothing to Deshaun Watson. Nothing. Stability, weapons, definite head coach. It's why the Texans are going to try to do a deal with the Jets. The Jets and the Texans, the Jets could say, listen, we'll give you the number 2 pick. So you get Zach Wilson. We'll also give you Darnold. And you can trade him in a year. You can start him for a year, and then trade him and use Zach. Well, it's perfect. You could get the number 2 pick and Sam Darnold. You also get the Jets have nothing but first-round picks and third-round picks because of the Jamal Adams trade. So that's why. The Jets is the one that makes sense. Or the Texans could be in. You think this thing's bad now. You may look up in 5 years, and they're Detroit. Because they've won some divisions in the last 5 years. Greg Cosell around the corner, hour 2, live in L.A. It's The Herd. Really bad move by me. I feel terrible. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciated that. I look back on what you thought, but I'm glad I still went to Seattle. It was a good experience. I was happy for Buffalo. I had a lot of friends there, I had a lot of people there, but I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't having a little bit of buyer's remorse,
So Deshaun Watson is 25 and now potentially on the market, which is, Greg, because of the franchise tag, it just doesn't happen. This is not what happens in the NFL, especially for star quarterbacks. So if you were his agent or Deshaun, what would be attractive to you and what would worry you? Is there something that you would say, okay, I'm not going there? And is there something that maybe that's underrated that would attract you to a team?
Yeah, so first and foremost, he's leaving Houston because he just views it as just like institutional chaos. I think that's really the reason they're in this predicament. They've traded away so many good players. There was really no organizational structure. There was no GM. The head coach was the GM. There was some kind of infighting amongst higher executive levels about who was in charge and who was making decisions. And I think he's just like, I'm too young. I'm too talented. I have too many things I want to accomplish. I can't be around this nonsense. So here he is forcing his way out, which is, almost unheard of in today's NFL for a young star quarterback to be available, let alone publicly be asking for his trade. I think when you go down the line, the clearest fit as far as offensive head coach, young-minded offensive kind of innovative head coach, team built to win, was just in the Super Bowl a year ago, is the 49ers. I think San Francisco, if they could somehow land him, I think they immediately go to the top of the list, at least in the NFC, and saying that they're the favorite, right? I mean, we just saw what that team was able to do when they were healthy, the young defense that you're not really paying anybody much. I mean, to me, that's the team. Again, whether that's possible or not, I think that's obviously the number one fit. And again, with Kyle Shanahan and an offensive, young-minded head coach, I think that's the dream, right? That's what every young quarterback is looking for.
But there's a couple issues I want to talk to you about. The game behind the game in the NFL. Okay, there's the game, and then there's stuff that's going on that you've been around the league, you get it. So I theorize that the Rams have gone public with this Jared Goff stuff, McVay and Snead, in harmony. And they've done it not because he's a bad kid, but because they did him a solid by signing him early. They're now trapped by his contract. He's regressed. And they went to the agent and said, okay, let's redo the contract. And the agent said, no, we're not going to do it. So they're going to go, okay, then we're going to call out your client publicly. That's my gut feeling on what's happening. Right? I can't think of anything else because by all accounts, Goff's a nice kid. He almost never talks. He's like really, really quiet. What do you make of suddenly the Rams front office yesterday leaking it that we don't even know if he's going to be a starting quarterback next year?
Yeah, I mean, there's something going on, right? I mean, most organizations that are fully committed to especially a young quarterback, they bend over backwards to publicly support and empower that player. You never, whether they behind the scenes feel a different way, the public narrative from these organizations is always to do whatever we can to protect the confidence, protect the development of our most valuable asset. And in regards to Jared Goff, you touched on it earlier, the contract they're paying him, they're at a little bit of a crossroads. When we were getting ready to play them in the wild card round, and he was injured and he had the surgery the prior week, the last week of the regular season, and who was going to start? Was it Wofford or with him? Internally, I know a lot of us thought that it almost gave the Rams a chance to make a move that they thought allowed them to be better. I think Wofford's ability to run around and get out on the pocket. I remember we played him twice this year and watching Goff. They do so much boots and naked. He's out on the perimeter, but he's not a runner. He's zero threat to really advance the ball at all as a runner. So teams don't really have to come up and defend him. They see everybody staying back. He's on the edge. He's running, but he's really no threat. And I think all of a sudden they put in the other kid and he's running and diving, converting third downs. All of a sudden now they're running their rollouts and their boots and their nakeds. And now defenses are coming up to tackle him. Now guys are open downfield. And I think McVay said to himself, this adds another element to our run. This adds another element to this playoff run. And all of a sudden he starts against us in the wild card round. He doesn't really make it out of the first quarter or so. And Goff came in and played pretty well. He was healthy. So if he was good enough to be the backup and come in, there was something weird about him not starting that game.
Yeah.
I don't know. The whole thing just didn't sit right. And when Wofford took the first snap, we were like, it was interesting.
Yeah, no, your point is he was good enough to play, and they essentially benched him. They just didn't make it public that they benched him. That's what you're saying.
And again, I'm speculating, right? I always find it funny, guys that are injured, he's in uniform and he's an emergency player. They do this a lot with like injured offensive linemen, right? They keep him up if he's in a uniform, at some point he could go in the game. It could be on the second play of the game. If he's good enough to be the backup emergency and he's your guy, then he should be good enough to play. He ended up playing, 3 quarters against us anyway.
It's interesting. The Aaron Rodgers drama post game.